I'll call this meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency, our regular meeting of May 17th at 6 p.m. And call to order and roll call. Let the minutes reflect everyone is present. Invocation, Pastor Mike.
Pastor Mike, why don't you come over here? Our Lord and our God, we just want to thank you for the privilege that you have us and that you've given us to live in this wonderful country of America, where we have the freedom to gather, to take care of our city business, and to ask for your direction and your presence and your guidance in all the work that needs to be done for the good of this city and this area. We bless you, we worship you, and we exalt you, and we give you all the thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, sir. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Pastor Mike. I'll need an approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I have a first,
I'll second it.
a second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving right along to item number two, public appearances and comments not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council.
Mayor, we do have one public comment via Zoom, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a comment from Ronald Gray III. I'm just going to read it verbatim. For public comments, I know the stop signs are on today's agenda. However, I feel that asphalt speed bumps would be better and more efficient in slowing the traffic on residential streets. A lot of times vehicles stop and go and don't make a complete stop, as to where with speed bumps you can actually have to slow the vehicle down or risk damaging your own vehicle. Also, it would be possible to do a traffic study around the city to better know where to implement these speed bumps. Efficiency is key. Thanks.
Okay. Any other public comments? Yes, sir. Microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Travis Lyon. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, City staff, City Manager for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm the President of Real Estate Operations for Priest Development Corporation. We own 2 residential subdivisions here in Brawley. One is Malin Park, the other is Victoria Park. They're both located just south of Malin and just east of Highway 86. I'm here today for 2 reasons. One, I want to provide an update to the City Council in person, and the second is to make a request. So I'll start with the update. I came I think it was about 14 months ago, and let the city know we were excited. We were moving forward with projects, not only our housing developments, but also a public works project building a portion of the road. The road is Wildcat Road, connecting from Walmart into our subdivisions. So for the update, I'm excited to let you know, I think today we delivered final versions of the improvement plans, stamped, hard copies. I think we're ready to go for the portion, Malin's portion of Wildcat Road. The reason I'm excited, I think, is the same reason the city and the city council is excited. I think it's an important circulation element for the city. Connects existing neighborhoods into Walmart, takes them off 86, hopefully reduces some of traffic bottlenecks on Malin and 86. The second portion I have to at least address, I don't want to belabor, it's the time that it took to get to this point in developing plans. I'm not talking about counting days, weeks, months. took years of back and forth, and I think a significant amount of resources, not only from the developers in, but also from the cities in to develop these plans. And the reason I bring it up is kind of leading into my request. Right now, Malin's a final map. We're finishing out the homes in that subdivision and finishing out the improvement projects that are associated with it. We do have Victoria Park is a multi-phase project. It has a tentative map for the next phase. We're in process of finalizing the final map and the improvement plans that go along with it. And so the ask is, I'd like to implore the City Council to continue to encourage staff to work with us on timely and efficient and equitable development and finalization of those plans. I negotiate for our company. That's really all I do mostly. And there's a saying, it's too sharp doesn't cut. And so what does that mean? Too sharp doesn't cut. In negotiations, I've always found that if you negotiate too good of a deal, it doesn't move forward. One party walks away from the deal. And the reason I bring that up is that in the development of these plans, they need to be equitable, they need to be economically feasible for us to move forward with the housing at Victoria Park. And so I'm excited. I think we're really close to the finish line on that, but that will be coming before the City Council, the developers agreement, the improvement plans, and the final map for approval. So I'm here if I can answer any questions. If not, we'll continue working with your team, and I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other public presentations? No? None on online? Okay. All right. And we'll go to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. So I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anybody want to pull anything? Doesn't look that much. The only thing that's on there is the 4-way stop signs, so that's one of the issues. So with that in mind, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, approved. Okay. And now we go to item 4, which is the city manager report. Tyler?
Just 2 quick, brief announcement. I know council's been asked multiple times on what's the status with Grocery Outlet. They have announced that they're going to be opening the doors on Thursday, June 16th, 2022, and they will be opening at 7 a.m., and the first 100 people in line will receive a Grocery Outlet gift card valued between $5 and $250, with a ribbon cutting ceremony will begin at 10 a.m. So that is
10 a.m.,
June
okay.
16th. And then also a brief announcement on the IID that will be holding they're going to hold several workshops, but one of them on June 2nd will be here in the council chambers at 1 o'clock to discuss the EDP program, which is the economic distribution plan as it relates to the water supply and how they're going to distribute that. So
Okay.
that'll be here in our chambers on June 2nd, 1 o'clock. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. And I want to assign one of the council members to go at 7 to Grocery Outlet to pick up my gift card, and then I'll go back at 10, and I'll be there for the ribbon cutting. So whatever, I expect a volunteer, any of you will do. With that said. Okay, number 5, regular business. 5A is discussion and potential action to approve purchase of outer vest carriers for police officers, presented by Jimmy Duran, Chief of Police. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, city manager, and staff. We are requesting the purchase of outer carriers. And just to give you a little bit of background, I think we've seen a transition nationwide to outer carriers from the standard way police officers wear the uniform to a outer carrier system that really provides the officers with a more practical advantage. As you know, wearing the outer vest is pretty much known, and I guess we can all know here with our extreme heat, it really carries that advantage that you can actually ventilate, have an opportunity to, to relieve your back from the extra weight that you carry on your belt. I don't know if you are aware, but you can carry up to 20, anything between 20 and 30 pounds on that belt, on what we call the Sam Brown belt. And that makes a huge difference. And I see Mr. Castro is nodding. I know with his Marine Corps experience, he has used load-bearing vests as well as Mr. Warden as well. So I guess they can both attest to the difference it makes on somebody's back, especially when you're carrying from 12 to, 14 hours or a peace officer day varies. So it could be short, it could be long, and it really makes a big difference. And so that's why we're requesting that you approve this purchase agreement. This purchase would ensure that all our officers have an outer carrier. And definitely, we believe that this is going to help mitigate any future injuries. Because, as you know, one of the main injuries officers sustain is back injuries, and a lot of it is due to the Sam Brown belt. And I know JPIA actually agrees with us on this matter because it has shown a big difference in officer injuries throughout the years with those agencies who have transferred to outer carriers. So the cost for this to outfit all our officers is $15,744.54. And the good part is that we can actually use a grant to purchase these, which is state cops. So in other words, it will not be a cost to the city. We already secured that funding. So with your approval, we would like to make this purchase. And we did seek 3 vendors, and we recommend that we would go with the lowest bid, which is the company called Curtis Blue Line.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comment? Luke, I think, was second.
Yeah, just great move, Chief. I do recall this at JPIA, and so great move. Thank you for that.
Was this a recommendation from JPIA?
No, well, that's something that, it wasn't a recommendation, but they endorsed it. When we brought it up on one of the meetings, they agreed with our assessment. And one of the questions that JPIA has that I know some people have is, we're going to make this mandatory, and that is a yes. So we're going to have to we're going to mandate the officer to wear it to ensure that everybody wears them. Because the reality is some may not like it because the appearance is a little bit different. Let's face it, it's a little bit different, but it does protect your back. So that's what we're looking at, long-term mitigation.
Save us a lot of money.
As Councilmember Hamby, we did have JPIA, when we did our review of work comp, that there were multiple over the years. Back problems due to the belts. So they're a fan of this to get that weight off of their back there.
And will this require special training for the officers so that they have better access to?
No, it's just it's pretty just, they just got to get used to wherever they position their gear. And that's a good part of these outer carriers. It really allows the officer to have a more personalized option when putting their gear on their body.
I get it. I'm always having to carry your weight, Mr. Mayor, so.
Construction site slowly but surely, we're also shifting to some of that.
Yeah.
Old habits, people don't want to shift to that, but I've noticed that I can move, much more freely and more
Exactly.
comfortable, so.
Do they come in green, Chief?
No comment.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you, Chief. Okay, item 5B is discussion and potential action to approve wastewater treatment plant valve and actuator replacement, CCO number 1, and authorize the city manager to execute all documentation in relation to this request presented by Guillermo Sillas, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Guillermo Sillas, Public Works Director. The item that is presented tonight is not exactly that was something that happened unexpectedly or a problem that we have. It's just that we took advantage that we have an open contract with a contractor that is well qualified to do this type of work that otherwise would have been more complicated to bid every single item that is presented in this change order. So we took the advantage to include it in this contract and to be able to repair and replace these pumps that are very important for the delivery of the water to the citizens. And that's the reason to include it in this contract and to kind of make a shortcut to do a quick repair instead of, taking for so long on the procurement process. The amount of all these items altogether is almost $78,000, and that's, any questions that you have, I will be, happy to try to answer them.
It's just a change order to take advantage of the contract you're under, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, because it is a major contract
Right,
amount.
right.
And so this is just an addition, well, I wouldn't consider it a small addition, but it is an addition
addition.
to that contract.
Right, we will be saving in all the
Less than 10%.
procurement, all the time that takes,
Certainly.
The
plus.
time and effort.
The time,
yes.
publishing.
We know
everything
that this contractor is capable and they already located the materials, so that's an advantage right now that there's a shortage on materials. So
Right. And we also don't run into an emergency situation where we have to do it very quickly. and
Exactly,
We may
right.
get a
It will
better
be more
price this way than
expensive.
we would in that
Yes.
situation.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the item.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. Okay, any discussion? Any questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, carries. Okay, thank you. Item 5C, review and potential action to approve a 12-month extension for project number 2019-02, purchase of chemical products for water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and parks and recreation, presented by Mr. Cias, Public Works Director.
Yes, this item is to extend an existing contract that we have with these companies that provide chemicals for the treatment of various locations. And as the information says that the contract is for 2 years with the option to extend it 1 year. And during the last 2 years, with COVID, these companies have been very reliable in supplying the materials. So we would like to extend this contract. They, some of them increase a little bit of the prices due to all the increases, in fuel and other expenses. But we consider it's reasonable, especially because, we have good track that they are complying with the delivery on time. And so that's the reason to ask for an extension for 1 more year. The differences are included there, which we consider are reasonable.
The backup does look like they are reasonable, in my estimation.
Absolutely. And Mr. Mayor, just looking in the backup material, the other thing I think is very important to point out, these have been actually rather difficult, even for home use, finding certain products because of some of the shortages. So just glad we have some reliability with the contracting, and I think it's kind of non-negotiable, right, for public safety.
I think we're also being proactive, and I like that,
Yeah.
because I think we're jumping on this in advance, and so we don't have a crisis situation develop. So I think that's a real positive. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Okay, item 5D, review and approve a service agreement with Jade Security Systems to purchase and install a keyless entry card system for the city of Brawley and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement, presented by Jimmy Duran, Chief of Police.
Once again, good evening, Mayor, City Council, and public. We are requesting your approval and entering an agreement with J Security Systems to purchase and install a keyless entry card system, and this is correct for the city of Brawley. So this is just not just for the police department, it is for the entire city. So we've been working with our city manager and department heads in this project, and we believe that this is going to be mutually beneficial for all departments in 2 ways: health and safety and public safety responses. And the funding for this comes from the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA. And as you know, part of the federal government's response to COVID, or part of the federal response is to address some of the COVID pandemic issues that came about in all cities as a result. So having this subscription to a keyless entry or to this keyless entry solution for the entire city is going to allow us to have an effective way of doing contact and tracing in the event that it's needed in the future. As you know, one of the biggest issues we had in the initial COVID response was contact and tracing, monitoring points of ingress and egress, and that was one of the issues that we found, that we couldn't monitor properly. The whole situation of who was coming, who was going. Now, what this is going to do from the health and safety perspective is going to allow us to just do that, to know who comes into a building, and then if, like in the case of COVID-19, if somebody is determined that they were ill, then we can do that contact and tracing. So we believe this is going to help us mitigate potential health-related outbreaks in the future as we enter or as we create a more secure environment in our buildings. And of course, as the public safety responses as well, it will actually help us have a better response. Let's say we have a building in which we need access or immediate access. This could actually give fire the advantage, police the advantage, instead of waiting for somebody with a key or something to that effect. So it's really a double-edged sword that it's going to allow us to address those two issues when one purchase. And again, this is part of the American Rescue Plan Act funding that is available for the cities. And the original approved ARPA plan included an estimated cost of $300,000 for this project under a medium priority project. And under the final ARPA guidelines funds, as you know, these may be utilized for general fund revenue replacement. So the finance department is recommending that we reduce the original $500,000 to $400,000. So again, the fiscal impact for this project on this keyless entry is going to be $92,167.11. And this is going to include a yearly recurring cost of $3,600. That's $300 per month, which equates to about $7 per door. We're getting 41 doors, and this is pretty much a breakdown from all the departments. The Firehouse 1 is getting 2, Firehouse 2 is getting 4, Library is getting 1, Parks and Rec 6, City Hall 1, Finance 3, Public Works Streets getting 8, Public Works Water Plant 6, Public Works Wastewater 1, and the P is getting 9. So as you can see, our whole city is going to be covered with this keyless entry. It's going to make access, pretty much seamless. This also works when an employee leaves our city. It makes it a lot easier to just recover our key at that point, because at that point all we got to do is deactivate the card, and we no longer have to deal with keys. And so it's going to make a big difference. Now, part of this initial agreement, we're going to get a premium add-on for free, which was great. And this comes in the form of Active Directory software, and this is just a management tool. After the first year, we are going to be required, if we choose to maintain this software, to pay an additional $1,500 a year, which will bring our yearly payment to $1,500.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Chief, thank you for bringing this forward. With respect to, I realize it's monitoring, but will it be internal monitoring? Who would be issuing the cards? Who would be responsible within the city?
Yes, and that's where that software comes in play. You
Right.
can actually, you can choose not to use this premium software. In each department, we have to monitor it. But if we get Active Directory software, then we can have just one individual. In this case, it will be our IT director,
I was
Armando.
going to say poor Armando is going to be responsible for.
Yes, and
Yeah.
and actually, he can delegate some of that authority to to different department heads and stuff like that. So, but again, it does fall under one
Right.
umbrella.
Thank you.
Okay.
Armando's like, I don't have my helper yet.
Chief,
Yeah.
Chief, I have a question. I'm a little confused about how much of the general fund is going to be utilized for this, and how much of it comes.
No
out of another
general fund.
source?
No
So it's
general
no
fund.
general?
No general funds, our ARPA funds.
Okay, it's all that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and how much in ARPA funds do we have available?
At this time? Well, that'll be a
Or
question
for
for our
finance
finance director.
That would be a good idea.
So we're using a good chunk of that.
Yes, I think
That's
so
the-
for this. Yes.
That's the one
Yes.
question I had as well.
Sorry, so within the original plan, we developed it on December 21st, was adopted, and it did include $500,000 to be refunded to the general fund as revenue replacement. The final ruling came out at the beginning of January. The final ruling changed the rules that for the sixth time, I believe.
Yes.
Made it more flexible so that we could use that funding for any general fund expenditure, which leaves it more open. So we are recommending that we not put that money back into general fund reserves because our reserves are strong. They're at an adequate level. They're almost fully funded. And so instead, utilizing that for expenditures such as this one, where it's one-time funding for one-time expenditures that we wouldn't have been able to do under the initial ruling. And so when we bring forward the amended recommendations and the update for the 6 months, I promised every 6 months we would do an update. We'll be bringing that in June, and this will be one of the projects that would be funded with that $500,000. So we would leave us still about $400,000 to then allocate to other medium priority items. The biggest item, of course, that's funded is the Highway 111 Main Street, which is $3 million of the $6.2 million. But in essence, all of our ARPA money is allocated to projects at this point. I think we had like 12 or almost $12 million of identified projects and $6.2 million of actual revenue. So what we're doing is every 6 months when we give an update, if we have savings, like from the fire truck or any other purchase, we will reallocate that small portion to other projects that we've already identified within the scope.
My request is small, and I've requested it a few times already. Replace these TVs, please. It's hard to see.
Get a
like,
bigger-
the pres- yeah,
maybe
it's
it's a
just-
bigger
They're
set.
10 years old, 11 years old. So they're
Yes.
hard.
69-year-olds can't
Yeah,
see
no
some of
doubt.
this.
It's
even up
always
close.
so difficult to see.
Armando and I have spoken about that, and I believe we have found some funding already outside of even the ARPA money.
Thank you. Chief, another question for you. Thank you very much.
I have a
Carlos.
question, though, for Carlos, before, go ahead, let the chief.
I just want to say that that's what I was about to say.
But answer his.
Chief, another question with respect to the technology. What is the lifespan of the units?
Well, like any technology, I mean, it comes with limited warranty. The warranty goes as 1 year. Let me look at the condition of the warranty. Now, what we see in this project, or what we see in this product, should I say, it's actually not bad. I mean, the reviews we've seen, of course, they won't tell you it's going to last for 5 years or 10 because they don't want to commit to that. But I mean, we haven't seen that many problems with people that are already using this system. It is my understanding that the city of El Centro is using Jade Security Systems already, and potentially other government agencies as well. And their warranty extends to 1 year, and it covers defective parts and 90 days of labor. And the standard service rate is $25 per trip charge plus $80
Understood.
per.
My question is
per
more
labor.
with respect to like it's an initial investment. So how long would we expect the units to operate before there would have to be another? Because it's hard to go back to keys if we're going to be doing keyless entry. So there would be another, obviously, investment in the future. So I know there's some representatives from Jade Security here. Maybe they can answer the question. If you can come up. Yeah. Okay, okay. All right, so there's no real answer. All
You know,
right.
I do have a little bit of experience because they're contactless, they tend to last quite a bit. Usually the wear and tear is minimal. It's just usually just a software, and I think that's where the cost is gonna come in. So we maintain that every year.
Yeah. I
Yes,
guess
that's where the maintenance
I guess the
agreement
question that I would have is, are they going to be on outside doors? They'll be on outside, some of them be outside doors. Will some of them be inside doors?
No, it's
It would all
all
be
outside
outside.
access, so your main entrances.
I think the
Vandalism.
bigger problem that we have with a lot of electronics like
Yeah.
that is the heat.
The heat.
And what happens during the summer. During the wintertime, it should not be a problem. Sometimes the heat will impact items here, and they won't last quite as long as they
Right.
would in more temperate climates. So that's one of the things that we
Heat
have to
or
deal with.
vandalism.
Or vandalism, that there may be some vandalism. I would assume, though, that they wouldn't all go bad all at once. I would
Right.
assume that they would be varying times depending upon their location and in respect to sunlight and everything else. Some might go bad sooner. I don't know if anybody's going to go vandalize the ones at the police department
Yes.
versus, say, the ones at the library or something like that. So you're going to see some difference in what happens
Maybe
there.
they're
Well,
more inclined to steal
and
books, you think?
I guess I can just add from my previous experience with my previous employer, we had keyless entry to several of the buildings, and from what I can recall, we never had many issues. Of course, once in a while, you're going to have some issues because it is a mechanical device. It is, it is a device, so you will have some issues. But I don't think they can commit to telling us a certain extent of time.
I would imagine the manufacturer would. There has to be some sort of lifespan, an expected lifespan, because it's not just unlimited,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we can definitely look that up and get back with you.
Okay.
Chief, another question. Is it like a electromagnetic system where it's a magnet that keeps the door locked, and when you swipe the card or tap the card, it shuts off the magnet? Or is it a mechanical, like an actual lock that opens?
Yeah, my understanding it's a combination that all depends on the type of lock. Like, we're going to do one of the metal gates at the police department. So I'm assuming that it's going to require a different lock. If you look at the quote, they actually have different types of items that they are quoting us on. And I can only assume that that's because the different doors are going to require different lock systems.
What we may find in the future is some of the locks may work effectively and some may need to be upgraded to a certain level because there may be some issues with that. And so that's what we've seen. I think we saw that at the county at one time. There were some things that went on with that. And some of them that require more secure or whatever, they may need to be upgraded at a certain time or for certain areas or certain items. Some things need to be more secure than others. The locks vary, I think, in complexity and whatever happens there from what I've seen. And I'm certainly not an expert. I haven't seen that many of them, but I have utilized them before. And they do vary. It's different,
I think the concern, though, is with respect to, let's say they do fail.
Yeah.
And so, just like software, the certain releases become obsolete. And so if there is like a key that is opening certain doors and now another one has to be issued of a different type or whatever, right? And so that would be the concern, that there is there isn't compatibility in the future, and so that would be a concern of mine.
Mr. Mayor, with respect to Mayor Pro Tem's question, obviously, those are technical questions.
Yeah.
We don't know, so we definitely want to, let's get the answers to that. Just anecdotally, myself, I'm just going to add in, I actually have multiple keys similar to this for various agencies that I've either worked for, volunteered for, et cetera. Anecdotal again, whether it's a hangar building, whether it's those kinds of things, they seem like they've lasted years. Like mine seamlessly worked for almost a decade, and I don't know if it was ever replaced or not. So I think there's, I would assume today the technology has even gotten better, but I'm sure it's not without fault. So it'd be good to get these answers, but I feel just with my own experience and I have no clue where those systems came from or how they compare. So again, like I said, anecdotal, but they seem to be pretty reliable.
Yeah, and one of the benefits, as the chief mentioned, is you're able to track with those cards who comes in and out of these properties, these buildings. I think that's important for security. And I think, I remember when we initially installed those, that was a huge benefit, because everyone had access to the building, could go in at night, could go in at 3 in the morning, and then we started to find out who was in there,
Take mayor's card and just come in.
If we borrow it.
Hey, if we need to, we need to.
No, I trust your judgment, Chief. It's not with
Yes.
respect to that. It's just, quite honestly, it's a big investment.
No, it is.
Regardless of where the funds are coming from, they're public funds. So it's, and it's an impact to our city budget as well. So I don't have any questions. I won't table the item. I wanted to proceed. I'll make a motion to approve the item.
I have a motion. I have a second. Okay, any further discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now you're going to have to change your proclamation, Mr. Mayor. When you give someone the key to the city, now it has to be the card to the city.
Key card to the city? Key card to the city, yeah. I got that. Okay, item 5E, moving right along, review and approve.
waiting for that one. Like when he said
Yeah, you wanted that one.
I don't want to use it.
That was actually good.
That was good, man.
That was a good.
You're learning, brother.
Review and
It took
approve.
5 years. But
Oh, boy. Okay, with that said, review and approve resolution of the City Council of the City of Brawley, California, appointing qualified elector to serve as deputy city clerk, presented by William Smirden, city attorney. Mr. Smirden.
So, Council, we're about to be a short city clerk. Our elected city clerk is out on an extended leave of absence, and the deputy city clerk is going to retire, and it is it is a position that is necessary. Somebody has to sign the contracts and things like that. We'll get somebody in there shortly to do it, but in the meantime, I'm willing to do it like I did the treasurer for a short period of time.
Okay. What's the council's pleasure on this?
I appreciate the fact that you're going to put your name here, so I'll make a motion to approve the item, and I thank you in advance.
You're welcome.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, I have a second. Mr. Wharton. Okay. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we'll go to item number 6 of the agenda, and that is a study session, review, discuss, and provide additional direction for the 2022-23 preliminary budget. This is study session 2, presented by Carla Romero, Finance Director, City Treasurer.
Thank
Carla?
you again. Here today to provide you, actually, it's technically study session 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth time we're talking about this year's budget, and this is the stack of papers, double-sided, that I have already given you. So it's about an inch thick. So we're talking maybe 400 pages by now. So we're slowly building upon getting to our adopted budget. We still have 2 more study sessions, one at the beginning of June, June 7th, and then the final adopted budget on June 21st.
I thought you were going to say the final exam.
Yes, final exam, ready for approval, June 21st. So today's study session is not going to focus on the general fund. That was the last study session. This one's going to focus on all those other funds, special funds, internal service funds, enterprise funds. So we have 40 total funds. Total revenues are about 35.1 million. Total expenses are about 30.7 million. Again, these are the funds that are restricted in uses. They are restricted for road improvements, water improvements, the airport, our redevelopment agency. So very, very restricted funding for very restricted purposes, all for, of course, operations of the city. But we'll go through those and what that means. And of course, you can stop me at any time. Happy to answer any questions, and our department heads are always here to assist as well. They don't know it, but they are. Just kidding. Okay, so special funds. I'm going to touch on the highlights of the special funds and any changes from last fiscal year. I won't go through all 30 of them, but again, I'm happy to dig deep if you'd like. Just let me know which one in particular you would like answered. The first one is, of course, the American Rescue Plan Act that we were just speaking of during the last other item. We are recognizing our second equal payment, which is a little over $3.1 million. The first tranche or the first payment was received last July. Second one will come this coming July. That would make sure we have all of our revenues whole for all of the expenditures that we have fully budgeted, as I had mentioned earlier tonight. The total allocated amount is $6,274.56. And of course, we'll be providing an update on that item in June as well, for the details of what we've done so far, where we are with the plan, and to ask if there's any reallocation of funding at that point. The gas tax fund and the road maintenance and rehabilitation fund were together as one fund before under Fund 211. We have separated that out because there's different audit requirements and different reporting and uses for the road maintenance and rehabilitation fund. So what was happening is that finance was keeping a separate tracking instead of using the system to its capacity and separating that funding. So what it's doing now is we're recording the revenues and the expenses separately according to those guidelines that we need to meet. So it allows us to be more transparent and efficient in our financial work by separating those out. The revenues are the same sources, they're just in 2 separate funds now. And those, of course, are restricted for road maintenance. Some city staff working on roads are funded through the gas tax fund. And then the road maintenance and rehabilitation goes back to SB1 that was approved by the voters. These 2 funds do have 3 new improvements that are incorporated in the CIP plan that total a little bit over $1 million, and 6 carryover projects or improvements within the capital improvement plan that are about $1.1 million. And if you look at the beginning of our budget document tonight, there's a sheet that tells you what the available funding is. These two have negative funding because, as we mentioned in the Urban 3 planning session, we have a lot more road maintenance than we do revenues. And so what that means is we have all these projects that are identified, but we may not be able to get to all of them. And as you know, they are multi-year projects. So as the funding becomes available, that's when we're able to really do them. So it'd be, we need more money, basically, for road improvements in order to keep up with the maintenance.
Just for clarification, the numbers were roughly the required
5 million.
5 million.
About, we have a deficit of 5 million?
No, 5 million is the required amount. and we are-
5 and 3,
5 and 3.
roughly.
So we're roughly 2 million short every year.
Yeah.
Yes. The highway relinquishment, we have about a fund balance of about 6.8 million. We do have a $300,000 design expense that is for the Main Street improvements in order to get ready to do those improvements with the ARPA money listed above. And then, again, the same concept here for the pedestrian and the transportation funds. They were, again, commingled into one fund before. When they are restricted in uses, one is for pedestrian and bicycle improvements, walkability of the city, ADA compliance. The other one is for bus shelters and transportation. And there are 2 separate grants, 2 separate resolutions, 2 separate audit and balances. So same purpose, separating those out for efficiencies. Measure D, we do see a revenue increase. Sales tax revenue is what is derived from here. And as we talked about in the general fund, we're seeing strong sales tax revenue, so these revenues are also increasing for Measure D. We have 3 new road improvement projects in the CIP plan at $970,990, 3 carryover improvements totaling $130,000 funded with Measure D. And then we have 7 of our community facility districts. We are seeing the standard 2% increase for the fees. They are still lower by 2% because when the pandemic hit, the council decided to waive that increase at that point in time, but we never retroactively adjusted it. So when we get those reports in June, you'll see that we're slightly below the total fee that we could be charging because of that. We didn't reinstate that retrospective adjustment, that decrease that we took.
Okay.
Any questions on these? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about our development impact fees. Oops, I don't know how that happened. I went back, Armando.
Best laid plans.
Armando's playing with me today. No,
Just went back
the other
again.
one, yes. No.
Come on, Armando.
Armando.
Stop playing around.
Development impact fees.
Yeah.
Always Armando.
So, so we have a few of these fees. Remember, Armando.
Come on, Armando.
I'm not touching anything.
That wheel is
He's his
probably turning.
assistant already. Look at. He's
I know, that's
all
why,
found
hey, he's like, I need somebody to help me.
out.
Much for the locks on the doors.
All that
huh?
gray hair.
So much for the locks on the doors.
All right, so with these development impact fees, we are seeing the purpose of them is to increase the capacity, the use of our facilities, the distribution of our water systems, provide new park or library amenities to an increased amount of users based on the development that is happening in the city. These cannot be used for ongoing repairs and maintenance of current facilities. So all of these projects that are listed are to improve the facilities that we have in order to expand the uses or expand the compliance of certain regulations. So here's the different components that we have funded this year. Again, in the coming next council meeting, we will have our annual review of these. They are the DVBA and gas company and the coalition, I believe, have all submitted their comments to me, and we're responding to them, and they all seem to be in compliance at this point. So, let's see. All right, Armando, I'm just going to ask you to do the next slide. Okay. Enterprise funds. So there
It's like
are
4 times already this week.
there are 4 enterprise funds. I love Armando. Enterprise funds are business-type activities of the city. So these are self-funded, self-regulated funds. We do see some augmentation, maybe by loans that are outstanding with the water, wastewater, minor grant funding that we receive as well for the airport. But for the most part, these are self-operational, just like a business would be. There are no rate changes within any one of these funds. However, I will note that the solid waste fund, we are anticipating some sort of change with the implementation of the organic waste recycling that is required by the state. So at some point, pretty quickly into the beginning of 22-23 fiscal year, we will be bringing forward what those rates are and then incorporating them as a budget adjustment. That assessment will begin likely next month and trickle in through the summer for our residential customers. I noted there too some of the major changes. We have on the good news some loans that are outstanding that are maturing this fiscal year. We have 2 in the water fund that are maturing and 1 in the wastewater fund, and then that leaves us just 1 and 1. So 1 outstanding in water, 1 outstanding in wastewater. So overall, these are doing well. One note, as an operational change, the Airport Commission has been speaking about just enhancing the use of that facility a little bit more, bringing in additional revenue, again, to be more self-operational, expand the uses. They realize that there is no general fund contribution for those operations, so they're getting very business, have a business mindset, right, to generate additional revenue. So one of the things that they're wanting to do is to potentially sublease a portion of the property in order to do some sort of storage or other use that could be rented out for private purpose. So that evaluation would continue into next year, and so there's some professional services budget in that particular fund for that purpose. Whether any of that comes to fruition or not depends on the uses, but they want us to evaluate it, and we need funding to do that.
Is there a limit on what can be placed on there?
Lots of
according to the-
limits, yes.
Okay.
FFA limits,
Yeah,
and there's lots of regulations. So they're asking us to explore it, and rather than us just saying, no, 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 we're going to go through the exercise of doing that.
Also, there are restrictions on revenue and how, if you collect revenue on that property,
How it
there's
can
a
be
certain
used.
requirement on who it goes to and how it's
Yeah,
utilized.
it's fair
Yeah.
market value. There's all
Yes,
kinds of
all
rules from the
kinds of stuff.
FAA that we would engage on that. And of course, the final say is right here with you 5 on any project that would move forward before it does.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Thank you.
coordination that is required to do anything. But what I'm hearing from them too is we want to explore it, we want to analyze it, and what I'm telling them is we need the resources to do that. We're not the experts in FFA or Federal Aviation Regulation, and so we need to engage some experts to do that.
Okay. All right.
Next slide, Armando, thank you. So as far as the CIP update, we did provide you a comprehensive summary on April the 5th. It is incorporated into this document. Any changes from the original document are shaded within the report. There are no changes in the projects themselves, but there's changes in the funding sources. So we moved some from the gas tax to like the road maintenance rehabilitation. So very minor changes. We moved some to the development impact fees that were expanding uses and taking advantage of those one-time funding from development impact fees rather than the water and wastewater funds. But other than that, there are no changes to the projects themselves. The carryovers are also noted within the report. They are already funded at this time, and they will continue to be funded through the life of those projects. The proposed new funding is only for next fiscal year, the first of the 5 years of the CIP plan. The rest would be funded in future years and reassessed in future years during our budget process. The project numbers are assigned when the projects are funded, and they remain the same until the project is completed from inception to the end of the project. Of course, we provide you periodic updates, and if any changes occur in the staff reports, we will also identify that there is funding available or that additional funding is needed or that additional grant money was received for these projects. What you see on the right-hand side is that we are highly leveraging grant funds in order to have resources for all of these projects that we have noted in our capital improvement plan. A little over 50% of the total amount is coming from grants. And then you see there that street funding is the second highest category. That is made up of gas tax funding and the Road Rehabilitation Act and the Measure D that we spoke about earlier. And then we do have a developer reimbursement that has been solidified for a project and so on there. So last year we had a lot of water. This year we have a little less water, so we have larger water carryovers and more street funding.
Okay.
And our internal service funds, the city does have 2 internal service funds. These are internal agency services that are allocated amongst all of the funds, including the general fund. They are used for maintenance fund to oversee the citywide fleet, procurement of vehicles, fuel, repairs, that kind of expenditure. And then the risk management fund where we allocate all of our insurance costs. We are seeing a decrease in the premiums with the savings of a little over $241,000, specifically a large decrease in workers' comp. So that was really good news from our Joint Powers Authority this year. And so what's happening is that those savings are then trickled down into all of the funds, including the general fund.
Carla, if I could just and this may be directed a little bit more at our city manager at the time when he came on. I know one of the changes to fleet management was our agreement and I guess partnership with Enterprise Fleet. Is there a look back or a comparative of life before when it was in-house versus how it's looking now as far as efficiencies?
There hasn't been one done lately, but I think a year in, we did do a presentation from a financial perspective where the savings were there. We have had since, as far as the leasing piece of it, we haven't been able to fully implement it like we would like to because of supply and demand.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that we haven't, I would say, vetted all the way through yet because we haven't had the opportunity. And I don't think that's at fault of EFM. You know, it's just the market conditions and chip and what have you. Now, as far as the maintenance costs have gone up because now we are getting things fixed. But the tracking, I am a big fan of the tracking. I can go in there and look at any vehicle and see what we spent and why are we doing this again. And the tracking, the data is just, is I think, worth it alone. So, yeah. But as far as, it's been a while since we've actually done any financial look back on that.
And I know things have changed significantly since then, so.
One of the things that we did do internally as we assessed whether new vehicles are needed is just what our city manager said as we looked back and said, how much was the repairs for each one of the vehicles? And if they were really high, was it associated with high mileage? Those probably need to be replaced. Or was it because it was an accident or what occurred to justify that larger increase in expenditure? But it's a really nice tool to be able to export into Excel and have an internal analysis done. So next slide. Thank you. Our last fund that we have within these special funds is our fiduciary fund. This is related to the redevelopment agency that is being dissolved for the city of Brawley. The ROPS, which is a recognized obligation payment schedule for 22-23, was approved by the county on January 12th, by the city on January 18th, and by the Department of Finance on March 18th with no changes. And so that is basically what is incorporated in this document for formal recognition within our budget. Again, these are revenues that are coming from property taxes related to redevelopment dissolution, can only be used for redevelopment dissolution purposes. We do have one outstanding bond that matures in 2037, so we will continue to have a redevelopment agency until that point when the bond is dissolved, and then the city would then see additional property tax increment at that point in time from the redevelopment agency. Next slide. It is a while. So we do have two things that are pending just overall within our budget. As the city manager mentioned earlier, we are having some trouble just confirming rates and leases and availability of vehicles. And so we haven't fully incorporated any new leases to the budget, but that is a very minor change, but it will be incorporated by the next update. And then any personnel requests. We do have some additional personnel requests for some of these funds as well. We know we're going to need some additional help for like the organic waste implementation, and so we'll be bringing forward all of them comprehensively in the next budget update. And then, as mentioned earlier, we do have another study session, June the 7th. Again, we'll provide you a comprehensive document of very close to what the final budget will look like on June 21st for adoption. We'll have a separate budget column that gives you the initial proposed budgets that we've gone over already, and then a new updated proposed budget, so you can easily see which ones have changed. I can do a variance column, so if you see no variance, you don't need to really worry about it. We've already reviewed it. Of course, happy to answer any questions during any budget study session. As a reminder, we do have a dedicated website page. I'm always available via email, phone. That information is on the website. I'm happy to answer any residents or city council members' questions at any point in time.
And if I may add, Mayor, it is budget related. Since before we meet again, we will have our community workshop as it relates to some revenue. So Carla, if you want to just give a quick brief where we stand on that right now.
Yes, so our community workshop is scheduled for Saturday, June the 4th at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Senior Center here in Brawley. We are encouraging the public to attend so that we can not only review what the city has been proactively doing, what we would like to do, and our funding challenges that we have. We mentioned some of those tonight, specifically with our road improvements, but we'd like to expand other things, our police force, our fire equipment. I mean, there's a lot of need. Yeah, there's a lot of need, and so we know that we have limited revenues, and unlike a business, we can't just increase our fees or increase our rates. But we do have some options that we would like to present to the public at that meeting.
Okay. And Councilman Warden, as a friendly reminder, you had agreed to be the,
Facilitator.
Yes.
Facilitator.
What was the time?
What was the time? What was the day?
From 9 to 12 on June the 4th.
June the 4th.
It's not, I remember, of course, that we did discuss it, but I usually check my calendar. It's not on my calendar, but I will.
Well, we'll send it out, make sure.
Okay.
Yes, it is also on the city's website. I did put it on the calendar there today. I also put our State of the City, which is this Thursday at 7:45 a.m. Again, a great opportunity, free for the public to receive an update of the city and what we have been doing.
And they get breakfast.
They get breakfast,
Which is the
yes.
most important part.
And we do have a couple of slots open. They are filling up quickly, but we have about 20. So in order to register for that event, you go through the Chamber of Commerce, again, free to the public.
Very nice.
Okay, very good. I was going to mention that. But
Thank you.
thank you.
Anything, any questions or?
Any questions for Carla? Any questions? No?
I don't want to just walk away.
I don't think there's any direction, just other than you just continue doing what you're doing right now.
When you get right
Thank
about
you.
there, then we'll be like, hey.
Yeah, hey.
Thank you.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Be nice. Okay, item number 7, informational reports. Record of building permit for April 2022, the City of Brawley, prepared by Oscar Escalante, interim building official. And that's just for your review. It's in your packet. I think we looked at that. There's always a lot of things on there, a lot of different items going up for building and stuff. We have 2 full pages. It's always, I think, important for us to review that, look and see what's going on.
That's good, though.
It's always substantial.
That's good.
And it has been for quite some time, and no action required on that. And then we'll go to item number 8, city council member reports, and we'll start with Mr. Hamby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a whole lot to report other than myself and Tyler, the city manager. Tyler does this stuff all the time, but from time to time I get contacted by business or industry owners for some guidance or some help along the lines of what the gentleman from Priest Development brought this evening, just help to kind of push things through the system. And so I appreciate Tyler for the work that he does to try to move things more efficiently. That is always a struggle, I know, with a city our size and with as many projects as we have going on. So anyway, it's discussions like that, and that's all part of the job of being on city council. And so I take that as part of the responsibility, and it's, you know, it's always a learning experience on how to deal with people, how to work with people. So I'm glad to have Tyler, you know, heading up the management of our city. Also attended a library board meeting, and it's always, you know, I know Sam prefers to go to those, but you know, I don't like to miss those either. So
Do
it's
they
always
like you more than Sam, do you think?
no Sam. They say Sam is their
This
number
is their
one.
favorite?
Like me
Yeah,
better.
number one
They
customer.
like me
Number one.
a lot.
Yeah.
They like me a lot better.
Just
He brings his own bag for the book sales.
But then when we come, they tell us that. We haven't had a book sale in a long time.
I know, for the book sales, he brings his own bag.
I
It's
bring the own
really
bag
large.
and everything.
Everything that fits in a bag is
He's
a
gonna
dollar.
go get a shopping cart from
Yeah.
Walmart and bring it over.
Right. I'm gonna have actually discussion about that. in a
Are you?
second, Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few out there
Yeah,
that you
that's
can
right.
grab
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
streets if you need to.
Yeah.
But that's, other than that, just appreciate all the hard work that everyone's putting into making the city of Brawley a better place to live. And I'm always encouraged to see the improvements that have happened over the last few years. I know that Mayor Couchman has a lot of good things to say at the upcoming State of the City address, so I'm excited to attend that. That's it for my report.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll just start off with just recognizing the fact it is National Emergency Medical Services Week. Proclamations from the White House all the way on down, but I do want to recognize our very own here in Brawley. I know we often do, especially through the pandemic, but big thank you as always, not only to our own staff, our EMTs, our paramedics, associated with the fire department. In some cases even, I think I'm not 100% sure about our law enforcement officers, but even in law enforcement, you might have some former EMTs or people that keep up on those skills. Also, American Medical Response, based right here in our community, and Reach Air Medical Services, speaking of the airport, with our base out there. Some people don't know they're here. But again, thank you for what you do to for our community, and obviously what they do to serve all of Imperial County. One final note there too, in recognition of that, is there are definitely people that do that job not because of the money. They stick in it because of what it does for the community and what they're able to do to help people. So huge hats off to the folks, especially the last 2 years. So again, everyone just keep in mind National EMS Week. If you see someone, a man, woman in uniform, please thank them for their service. The next item, speaking of service, I did get to participate in the Imperial Valley, as I did last year, Imperial Valley Law Enforcement Relay Race. This is held for well over a decade now, so I think it started in 2010, where all the Valley agencies come together and put a 10-person team together to race against each other. But it's to raise awareness, to honor, as well as raise some funds for the families and for those that have lost their lives in the line of duty here in Imperial County. I got to participate with the Imperial County Sheriff's Office team, and I will brag a little bit. We came in second out of 19 teams. So Chief York, it wasn't just our race that we did a few weeks back. We did it again here locally, although Chief York was not on that team. But it was a great showing and great support, and we ran in honor of Deputy Anthony Redondo, if we all recall, a little over a year ago. Lost his life in a traffic accident here in Imperial County while on duty. So again, it was a great honor to meet members of his family and be able to do what we did. And then just lastly, I want to announce this Friday, it's more of an announcement, many may not be aware unless you have youth involved in football and cheerleading. But every year, a group of very dedicated coaches, parents come together and they help put on a camp. With the participation, I believe, from BUHS, our football program, our cheerleading program. It'll be this Friday evening at Ed Soto Field. It'll run from 6 to 8. Council members have been requested if they'd like to come by, and I think there's even some engagement with the camp attendees and goers. It's very well attended, actually. I've gone in the past and had a chance to address the kids and just share with them again the importance of being involved in sports, being involved in our community, and certainly taking advantage of some of the great fields that we have there. So that'll be this Friday, 6 to 8, and all of council members, Mr. Mayor, we have been cordially invited. So that's Friday night, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I forgot last meeting to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day, so everyone here, every mother in the room and listening out there, I hope you had a wonderful day. Also like to congratulate our legendary wrestling coach here in Brawley, Coach Tony Leon, who was inducted into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is like super cool and well-deserved. I mean, the guy's won so many CAF titles. I mean, he's just amazing. So congratulations to him. Got quite a bit to report. We're going to keep it short. We were able to meet at I came and snatched up our city manager, and him and I snuck into this meeting with our assembly member and our state senator to discuss, one, the surplus funds that the state received and are making their way down to Imperial Valley, and second, lithium revenues and how they're looking to be distributed and how they're looking to guarantee some of the funds, 30%, I believe, to the north end specifically. You know, there were a lot of discussions about Nyland and Calipaz. We were there to remind them that Brawley is also part of the north end. So we did have some very productive conversations, I think. A lot of stuff was put out there. More importantly, we were there to let everyone know that we're also part of the north end. I was bragging a little bit, and our city manager corrected me, say, hey, we do have need down in Brawley. So of course, they knew that already, but anyways, very productive, and I'm just glad we were able to get in there and make those contacts and make sure that they know that, you know, we're here and that we're also part of the north end and the needs that we have. So that's all I had to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to keep it short, but I got to refresh some points here. So I did attend the Desert Valley Builders Association get-together at the Stockman's Club the other day. They're reintroducing themselves to Imperial County. Because of COVID, they hadn't met formally out here for some time, so it was good to see them out here, and there was representation from the city. I was there with their city manager. There was also representatives from other cities as well, including some council members from other communities and some developers and others. So on a side topic within that meeting session, I did bring up a topic to other elected officials that were there with me in a conversation. And just to give some background to the conversation, many years ago, I led an effort along with council. It was a cleanup effort for our community. And so I involved Imperial Stores at the time, and that was like discounted paint, discounted supplies, that kind of thing. And it was a beautification effort for the city of Brawley. So I brought up that concept again within this group, and I suggested, at least to them, that it may be more impactful if we joined forces and made it a county-wide effort, a beautification effort. And well received, at least that during that discussion, and I'm going to follow up with it just to have maybe an introductory Zoom meeting just to see if maybe other cities are interested in participating, and really wanted to focus more on really the low micro level issues. I know we have community cleanups and those are important. That's all great, but you know, it was more focused in on individual homes, like mowing the lawn, like, you know, cleaning up your properties, that kind of thing, right? And so having a beautification month throughout the valley, whatever we call it, would be something I think that could really gain some traction, especially with publicity and marketing and things of that nature. And so we stood behind it. I think that can help our community. If you drive around Brawley or just take the Gold Line, you know, I think it may still be free. And that's going to set to expire. But if you just take that and visit all the stops within the city of Brawley, you're going to see how different the community is. You absolutely will see it. There are so many neighborhoods that need just more attention than others, and that's for various reasons, right? But our community as a whole just needs to be cleaned up. That is absolutely true. So it starts really kind of at home and in your business. Clean up, mow the lawn, you know, all of those sorts of things that need to be done That's what we need to encourage. And so if we can partner with local partners such as maybe Ace or in this case, El Centro with Lowe's and Home Depot and other stores that are around here. Like I said, I'd involved Imperial stores in the past where they can maybe receive a discount locally and that those funds are, we put back in our local economy. That'd be fantastic. But anyway, that's just sort of the surface discussion. I think really it starts at home. I mean, it really does. And so I've always had that concern. Going into that a little bit, Councilmember Hamby, you brought up the shopping carts. That's become such an issue for us. It really has. They're everywhere. Walmart shopping carts are everywhere. And quite honestly, I don't know why we don't have an ordinance that prevents that from happening. It's like it shouldn't be the public's responsibility, the city's responsibility to pick up shopping carts. And they shouldn't be everywhere. That's just the truth. It's blight. And I know people need to transport things, but quite honestly, what they do is they transport, they leave them, and they're everywhere. And so it's all of those things that lead to the image of a community, all of that. And so you go out of town and you see other communities that aren't faced with those sorts of issues. And yeah, maybe it's socioeconomic to some degree, but it's also like when you set that standard, and people aren't following it, it's just, that's just the way it is. I mean, you go to neighborhoods and, you go into a grocery store and you see that nobody returns a cart to the shopping cart storage areas. And in some places they do,
It's kind of like the broken window.
Sure, absolutely. Look, in my building, in my business, this is just the way I work, and in my home. It's like when something breaks, I immediately fix it. I don't wait a day. I pulled up the other day and there was a missing number. Somebody stole a number from the 578 G Street. So they stole the 8. I replaced it the very next day. Oh, no, that day. I bought it that day and installed it. It was a Sunday. But it's like, if you don't do that, it leads to more. If there's graffiti, address it. I do it all the time. When I'm not just preaching it, I'm not just saying like do it, I do it. And it's like everybody needs to have that sort of mentality. And enough of that, but you get the picture of what I'm trying to say here. So if we can maybe address that too with respect to hold businesses accountable too. They're putting it out there. It's not like they're not making money. Sure. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we?
Has something in
right,
place.
they have in place, to where they lock maybe they're way more expensive, right? But so what? It's like, why is it the city or the citizens' responsibility to take care of that? It shouldn't be, It's like, I am responsible for my own business. I don't ask for anything from anybody, other than, the kindness of having clientele, But it's like, I spend my own money, to do the things that I do, and I expect everybody else to do the same. So, anyway, I'll gripe all night, but I hope that the message is not that I'm picking on anybody in particular. It's just that we need to look at ourselves to address the issues that are affecting our community. And if we don't do that, and we just say like, hey, it's somebody else's responsibility, then, when is that going to be addressed? Anyway, so I had the surface conversation, and hopefully we'll continue that. Maybe there's a greater effort valley-wide. So anyway.
Your building looks great, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's very nice.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Are you finished?
I am.
Okay.
I am finished.
Well,
not really, but you know what I mean, for the night.
And another. Right, I'm not going to interrupt. Okay, so my turn. Okay, I attended the Taco Festival. I think some of you others did attend that. It was a really great festival. The chamber did I think an excellent job with that. I think they had 15 contestants. They had about 30 vendors. And I saw probably a couple, I think 2,000 or 3,000 people. And I think there were a lot of people that came and stayed a while, then they left, they came back. There were people that came to visit with children. There was a lot of people, long lines for food, and a lot of entertainment. And I think it went very well. The police department did a great job. I think private security did a great job. Fire department, I think, were there with their personnel. And so overall, I thought it was a really nice event, and it went very, very well. And it's a nice event for Brawley. Many people came up to me and said, we should do more of that. I indicated to them that some of that's probably in the planning process, but that it takes a lot to put on that kind of an event. And then we block the streets, we do all the things that go along with that. But I think it was received very well by the community, and I thought it was a great event. I also had the privilege of going to Dancing with the Stars at the Q the other evening on last Friday. It was a great event also. 700 people over 700 people probably from the valley there, and at the Q near Yuma. But it was a great event. We had a lot of people there. The dancers were great. The food was great. The Q did a great job, and IVROP Community Foundation, which I'm on the board, we felt like it came off very well considering all the hurdles that we had to get by post-COVID in many, many ways. And it was a struggle, but we were able to do it. And so that was a great event also.
Great job there, by the way. It looked great.
And George was there also. So
great job.
He sat at the El Centro table, though.
Hey, it's all right.
It's
they're our
okay, though,
neighbors, you know what I
because,
mean?
because his wife works for the city of
Yeah,
El Centro,
right,
and it's perfectly okay.
Right.
All right. And then I also attended a Hidalgo Society event, and it was a small event that they did crown the Hidalgo Society Queen, and they also had the folklorico dancers and everything, and it was a really nice low-key event, and I was able to attend that and say a few words there, and I thought they did a great job with that, too. Tyler and I met with Hard Insurance, Liz Gonzalez, the other day. Her business is moving. She's going to be moving to the old 7-Eleven by Witter School. So Hard Insurance will be doing that. And I think that's pretty much public knowledge now. And so
Well, it
I
is
thought
now.
I'd just give out a
Wow,
shout to her. She's
wasn't before.
she's working on that facility right now. And I think she's doing a fine job with that. And we had some discussion with her about what needs to be done and what we expect as a city and what she expects from us as a city. And so we had a great meeting. And then also, I want everybody to be aware the Marines are practicing again occasionally. And so be aware there will be some helicopter traffic at times. I want everybody to kind of have an open mind about that. I believe it's important for us to support our armed forces. And those Marines out there practicing, they may have to go into harm's way at any time, and I think it's valuable that we allow them to use our city periodically for practices, and I think it's important for us as a community and us as a country to do that. And I'm all in favor of that. In most instances, we do try to limit them somewhat for hours because of noise, but we do want to support them in their training activities, so we'll continue to do that. I also noticed the police and fire are out there every day. I see them on the job every day, and they're constantly out there, and I see a lot of patrols, and I see a lot of the fire and EMT presence, and so I'm very happy about that, and I think they're doing a great job with that, and everybody else within the city. So I'm very happy with all of that. So with that, thank you for that, and that's my report. And now we'll go to city attorney report.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, yes.
good luck this Thursday morning.
Oh, yes, we have the state of the city. I'll try, brevity, I think, is a virtue, so I'll try to be brief when I'm there. It shouldn't be more than 3 or 4 hours at the most.
You didn't get
know.
much of that
I mean,
virtual,
right.
just a thought, just thinking out loud.
At the most, you know, I mean, it's nice. So I'll be there. We'll talk about all kinds of exciting things. And then, as I mentioned to Carla the other day, we'll talk about the budget, which I'm sure people won't be as excited about. However, I'm always excited about the budget. I'll tell you that much for sure. So we'll be talking about all that. And it'll be at the Stockman's. And if you sign up, if there's 20 slots left, that's not too many. It's a free breakfast, though. So if you want to come, that's the only way we could attract people is to offer free food, for me, you know, because I'm speaking. But, but feel free to come to that. I look forward to that and giving a brief overview of the status of the city. Okay. And so now, with that, the city attorney report.
Since the last meeting, I've been to the city attorney annual conference, which is,
You didn't tell me about that.
it's a lot of work. Not a lot of fun, but it's important because you learn what's going on, and you'd be surprised how many city attorneys there are in California. It's a big crowd. Then tomorrow, Friday night is gallery night at DSR, so I haven't been able to have that in 2 years, and we're having it Friday.
What time?
I said tomorrow night, but I meant Friday night.
Okay, that's what
What time?
6 to 8. And
6 to
it's going to be low-key. It's no auction this year. It's just kind of low-key. Come in, have hors d'oeuvres, snacks, things like that, and everyone's welcome. It'll be nice. I will be next door at the dojo because we're also having black belt meeting there at the same time. So
Okay.
Cool.
So parking will be tight, but it's all right.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, and with that, we will be going to closed session, item number 10 on our agenda. And thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And all of you people listening in online.
Thank you all.
very much.
Have a good one.
Thank you all. And we'll take